Well, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning, whenever you are viewing this. Let's go over what is due this week. These are all of the assignments that are going to be due. As you can see here, I gave you till Sunday, April 5th, 2020, which is the end of this week, to complete our very first week of e-learning for English 3. So if we see right here, I have 3 specific assignments. Our first one is titled 4.2 because that's the springboard activity, self-reliance questions. So this has 2 different texts in it, the entire activity. I'm only asking you to do one, and that one is called self-reliance. It says in the comment box or by uploading a picture/document, answer the 2 questions from this week's lesson in complete sentences. If you didn't read below, and get the digital learning expectations and the e-learning week 1 documents, then you probably don't know what those questions are. So we are going to go over those in just a sec. The second assignment is a portfolio piece, and it is titled Nature Walk. So it says in the comment box or by uploading a picture/document, respond to the Nature Walk prompt located in this week's lesson. And remember, on your end, you're going to have a big blue submit button for each one of these where you can just type it in like a comment box, or you'll be able to upload a document, or you can upload a picture. The third assignment is a journal entry, and this one is going to be titled Check-in. It says respond to this week's journal entry prompt. Remember, you should be keeping your journal all together in a Word document, a notes app on your phone, or even in a composition notebook / on paper. Upload or type out just this week's entry for your grade. So again, if you're keeping it just in a composition notebook, I've been using one a lot, especially during this e-learning experience, you can keep it in there. Just make sure it's written dark enough in pen or something so I can see it if you take a picture. Here's our video for this week. We're not going to have a video every week, but this one's pretty useful. It's talking about Ralph Waldo Emerson, and he is our writer that we are taking a look at, a transcendentalist poet, thinker, and philosopher in his own kind of way. He is going to give us kind of some rules and basic characteristics of this genre so we can understand it a bit better. Now down here again, I said here are lessons for the week. You should still be working on your mental health training, but if you're not finishing it, it is completely okay. Just to make sure you're focusing on getting these assignments done. So let's go ahead and click here. And this is going to take us to what is expected for our first week. So for e-learning week 1, we're going to be talking about the pursuit of happiness, specifically how our beliefs and goals change as we grow up. So as we grow up, what is it that makes us happy? When I was 3, what made me happy was probably like a fudgesicle and Pop-Tarts. That would probably be a really easy way to make 3-year-old me happy because I just loved food. But as we grow up and as we mature and as we start getting hopes and dreams and aspirations, and as we're hit by the real world, those things change. So the American Transcendentalists had their own groups of beliefs and goals. They valued freedom, independence, solitude, which is, being alone, and nature, which is oddly applicable for this point in time while we are kind of quarantined and sheltering in place and not really moving around very much. That's a lot of what we have, or at least some of us do. We're also going to be reading Into the Wild, and Into the Wild's a little unusual because it's a true story, but it has parts that are technically fictionalized because we couldn't exactly know how things went down. Basically, it's going to be pieced together from a bunch of different documents they found on this real person, Chris McCandless. He graduates college. His family thinks he's, just going to go on a road trip for the summer, but he leaves on a trip for 2 years. Never tells them that he is gone or he is going anywhere, and he ends up dead in Alaska. And the question is, why did he do this? What's the deal? Why would someone take the risks that he took? Why is he dead? Was it on purpose or not? And those are questions we're going to be answering. So each week we have 3 pieces. We have our lesson, we have our portfolio, and we have our journal entries. So lesson's going to be, usually springboard. We're taking a look at another piece of text that's going to help us understand these things. Portfolio is also going to help us as we get toward the embedded assessment. So it's going to be a lot of small pieces of writing that are going to add up to something you can use for your essay. Same thing with the journal entries. Also, it's just a good idea to keep a journal during this period of time because you guys are literally making history. You are making all of these things happen and you're recording them. It's a great time to be alive and also a terrible time to be alive. And that's what the Transcendentalists talked about. So down here for this week's lesson, we have that attached video that I showed you before about Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I recommend watching that before you read Self-Reliance. Now, if you want, you can go onto Clever's digital Springboard book under Activity 4.2. It'll be in there. If you took your Springboard book home, it's in Activity 4.2, or I've also actually put the entire text in this document because it's pretty short. So here are the two questions you need to answer after you've read Self-Reliance. The first one says, what does happiness and/or success mean to Emerson? So you just read a whole piece about this dude and watched a video about him. So what do you think makes him happy? Does he want like a big house and a car and a wife and like 5 kids? Does he want to run for office and change the world? Does he want to be the best professional surfer that Connecticut has ever seen? It is up to you to tell me what you think would make him happy. And remember, we learned about negation back in Unit 1, which is defining things by how they aren't. So maybe you're going to see a lot of ways that Emerson doesn't want to be, or things he doesn't like, he doesn't think are successful. You can use those too, just make sure you're explaining it. So I need to see some examples from the text and, of course, your commentary. The second question says, after viewing the video and reading his text again, make a list of 5 things transcendentalists like Emerson think are important. So if you were saying, you know, you're going to interview a transcendentalist, hey, 5 things right now, what do you stand for? What do you think they would say? So for example, if we asked Janie what 5 things she would think are important from Their Eyes Are Watching God, she might say, oh, I think honesty and truth in a relationship is important. Or I think being romantically in love, sexually in love, mentally, spiritually in love is essential for a relationship to last. It can't be based on superficial things. Or something that wasn't important to her was money. She didn't care about money. She ended up having it sometimes, not having it other times. But she didn't worry about that security like her grandmother did. So thinking about that, let's apply it to Emerson and the Transcendentalists. After you've read and watched the video, what 5 things do you think are important to them? And then let me know, do you agree with those things? Are you saying, yes, I think that would apply to me too? Or are you like, no, that's crazy. I don't know why anyone would do that. So if we keep scrolling down, here's the entire text. So we have a little bit of info about the author. We have the text Self-Reliance goes down onto here, and that's it. Just 5 paragraphs. I am going to do just a quick reading of this to make sure we're all on the same page, but that's going to be in a separate video. So this week's portfolio piece, Nature Walk. Here's the prompt. If you can, go for a short walk outside. Write down something you can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. How does being outside right now make you feel? Now, I understand if you really can't go outside, maybe you're watching 2 siblings, maybe you have to work through all of this. I don't know. But that's just a suggestion. If you can't leave the house, maybe look out the window. Pull up a nature documentary. There's lots of them on YouTube. I personally like Planet Earth or anything narrated by Richard Attenborough from the BBC that you can find as well on Netflix. So this response should be a list of your 5 senses, so something you see, something you hear, something you taste, touch, and smell, and a few sentences. So make sure you're submitting that on Etsy. So that's what that whole piece should look like. So you can type it up, you can write it on notebook paper in pen so I can see it and take a picture of it, or however you would like to submit it as long as it can fit in there. This week's journal entry is check-in. So it says, as part of working towards a reflective essay, journal writing helps build memory muscles and practice personal writing. These entries should be at least a paragraph or more. The more detail and ideas, the more to draw from or later writing. Each journal entry will have its own prompt. Please keep your journal entries throughout this unit. You can write them in a little notebook or on paper, in a folder, in pen, again, so I can see them, and take pictures of each entry and turn it into Etsy. You can also keep them as a Word document, note section in your phone, or you can submit them as text or screenshots. So you can actually type it right in there, or take a screenshot of it, open in your Notes app, and submit that. So for the prompt, it says, how have you been these last few weeks? Consider the time you've spent off for spring break as well as last week while we were getting ready for e-learning. How has the time away from school been for you? How has your home life and routine been affected by school or other closures? So for example, if I were answering this, my routine has completely changed. I used to have to wake up at about 5 in the morning so I can get ready to leave. It would take me usually 30 to 40 minutes to get to work, and then I'd be at work early so I could get stuff done. So now lots of things have changed. So that would be something I might write about. But for you, write about however you have been affected. So those are the assignments for this week. Again, I'm going to upload a separate video just going over self-reliance. And I hope you guys have a great week. Please make sure you're messaging me any questions. You can always meet with me on Zoom if you need to, but just make sure you are checking in. Stay safe.